Rick Bozich joining us now. Rick has been out to the track. Churchill Downs is the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby is set to take off on tomorrow, as a matter of fact. But there's also things just going on nonstop. Louisville is Pat Kelsey. Really, I've seen quite a few names that they've landed via the portal. Mark Pope in Kentucky, he's pulled in some good names. Kobe Brea, the sharpshooter from Dayton. Indiana, of course, has reloaded via the portal. So next year's going to be a different season for all of these teams.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Indiana will have the most returnees on the roster with 6. It's pretty much of a brand new team at Kentucky and at Louisville. You can argue that if you go by the rankings, Kentucky's done a better job than Louisville out of the portal, but both coaches have been very aggressive and gotten some players who've been winners at other locations as they both try and build their own culture. It'll be a major change of pace for Kentucky, because after 15 years of doing it Calipari's way with all these guys you keep seeing in the NBA playoffs, this is going to be a different deal. It's not going to be one and done freshmen. It's going to be guys who've already played 2 or 3 years in college elsewhere.
No, it's great timing for all this to happen, too, because there's the potential of Indiana and Louisville playing again next year via a tournament down in Atlantis. And then the series with Indiana and Kentucky starts the year after that. So it will be interesting to see if they're kind of on even ground when that comes around. Indiana has really reloaded. They've got the most people coming back, as you said, but they've also got a lot of different parts that they needed. They've added at the guard position, and it's going to be an interesting year to see if all of the things that they brought out of the portal are going to come to fruition for that team.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just such a curious time in college basketball to try and figure out every team. Hopefully, after the Derby's over this weekend, now that the portal is closed in terms of players going into it, but still open for players coming out of it, I can look and kind of dig in on every team. But from some of the stuff I've read, Indiana's roster looks like it should be a top 20 team. Kentucky's going to be a borderline top 25 team, and Louisville might be just outside that. So we might be getting back to the way that things used to be, where all 3 teams are nationally recognized.
Yeah, well, Indiana fans they'll go berserk over that, because they have just been clamoring for that. They got a big taste of it the year before last with Trace Jackson Davis, that group that he led, but it still wasn't quite that much. They got to the tournament and didn't get out of that weekend, but they were competing and winning big games, beating Purdue when they had Zach Edey, and so getting back to all of that, it's just fun when it's like that. Louisville, Kentucky, Indiana, they all need to be good at the same time. It just makes everything so much more fun. Even Purdue, I mean, you want to see that rivalry be a rivalry. You want to see all those games be great games, not blowouts. And the portal is good for that in a way. I talked about Purdue. Matt Painter's still doing it his way, bringing in 6 freshmen. I've talked about how that he's probably got to make an adjustment to that, but it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to move on from Zach Edey.
Yeah, they're actually won over the scholarship limit, right? So they got to get rid of a guy, or have a guy go prep school, or have somebody go off scholarship or something. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, and they're going to be doing it without anybody out of the portal, right? I don't think they added anybody out of the portal. They lost 2, right? Gillis and
2 right now, and there will be a third, like you just mentioned.
Yeah, so they're going to be good. Matt Painter and Tom Izzo are the kings of the Big Ten, and they've been there the longest. They've established their culture. They've got a proven way of doing things. Both have now been to Final Fours. They're usually going to be among the top 4 or 5 teams in the league, even when they're not having a good team. Even this year, Michigan State wasn't very good and still made the tournament. So Matt Painter's not going anywhere. He's going to continue to have good teams. And if Indiana's going to get back towards the top of the Big Ten, they're going to have to go through Purdue to get there.
Without question. They are the king of the state at the moment. And also, the schedules came out this week for the Big Ten conference games. 20-game schedule still, but now we've got these 4 teams added from the West Coast: Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA. USC and UCLA will be coming to Bloomington next season. And then I assume the following year, Indiana goes out to Pauley Pavilion, which will be pretty cool. This year, they're going to the Rose Bowl. So there are some cool aspects of that, whether it's a venue or whatnot. And I don't know that UCLA has ever always established that. They've never played in Assembly Hall. So that's going to be a cool thing. So there's some cool things that are coming out of this. But then as a league now, you look at it, I've got no clue because I don't know who's going to be what next year. Is Indiana going to be? They're going to be probably in the conversation, but that's because Purdue is not going to be the dominant team that they were. There is not going to be that team that is going to be hard to knock off. I don't know what Illinois is going to end up with. I don't know what Michigan State's going to be like. Ohio State had a great run, so there's going to be a lot of questions going into this Big Ten season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. UCLA, Mick Cronin stayed, although there was rumblings for a while that he went beyond Louisville's list. He had not a good team this year. I think he ended up close to a losing record at 500 at best. But I think he's got most of his guys coming back, and I think they've did well in recruiting and in the portal, so they'll be good. USC is now Eric Musselman, so that'll be a brand new team with all transfer portal guys. So it'll be fun to see both those teams come in, and it'll be fun to me to see how they schedule it. Will it be like a deal where they play UCLA and USC on the same weekend? I mean, when they come in,
I was wondering that very thing.
Yeah, like that'd be a tough thing to ask those two teams. Like, okay, this is your weekend where you're going to play Indiana on Thursday night, and then you're going to play at Purdue on Sunday afternoon, because when they send them across the country, they're going to play at least 2 games. It's going to be like a Rutgers, Maryland, or a Michigan State, or an IU Purdue, or an IU Illinois, or a Minnesota, Iowa. I mean, that's the only fair way to do it, so they don't make these teams play. It'd be ridiculous to send them across the country to play 1 game, and it'd be unfair to also say, okay, you're going to play Thursday at Rutgers, and then you're going to get on a plane and play Saturday night in Iowa. I mean, that would be an unfair competitive advantage. So I'll be looking forward to see how they do that.
And the same in reverse, whether it's Indiana, Purdue, whomever. It's easy. You go to UCLA and USC, same city, for the weekend, and then Oregon and Washington, quick little trip in between the two. I expect to see that as well. So it's going to be very interesting. But as far as the conference goes, man, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be leading it. And I don't know that there's going to be that many easy games next year either. There's going to be probably few. Everything is going to be a fight. I mean, I'm sure there's always the bottom teams, but those bottom teams are not always as bad as they seem. And a perfect example of that was Ohio State last year. They were one of the bottom feeders of the Big Ten, but man, they were able to knock off Purdue and do some things and go on that run at the end. So it's going to be very, very interesting just from that standpoint.
Well, the one thing I've noticed, Jim, is that there have been some Big Ten teams that have gotten hit pretty hard by the portal. Wisconsin's gotten wiped out pretty much. They lost Chucky Hepburn to Louisville. They lost AJ Starr, whatever his name is. He went to Kansas. Yep. They lost another guy. Iowa's lost Tony Perkins, and I think another guy. Minnesota's lost at least 2 or maybe 3 guys from a team that was a decent young team last year, and had some nice moments. So some Big Ten teams have taken Illinois. He did this last year. He rebuilt his team on the fly, but he had Shannon coming back and Luke Goody. But I mean, he's lost most of his guys. Didn't Coleman Hawkins go in the portal? I saw. I mean, he's got almost a brand new team. So I have sympathy for the guys who write for the college basketball preseason yearbooks, because it's going to take a lot of research to figure out who is actually on the team and trying to evaluate who's going to be good and who's not going to be good.
Yeah, it's a whole different world. I was talking earlier with Zach Osserman about the attempts to settle the house cases, as it's called, but and what that may bring. Because man, I think everybody's looking forward to some kind of uh, structure, some kind of order to this, because it is so crazy right now. And all the freedom that the players have, they have freedom that nobody has ever had. No coach or anything to be able to move like that, to move about. And I don't know that that's great for anybody.
I was sitting actually at the racetrack on Wednesday talking with Chris Redmond, who played quarterback at Louisville, and Deion Branch, who played receiver at Louisville and now works on Jeff Brom's staff. And we were just talking about how much different it is that when Chris Redmond, who was a really good high school quarterback at Male High School, came to Louisville, he redshirted for a year. And then his next year, he sat for part of the year, and then the quarterback got hurt, and he got in and he got to play. And then Louisville fans watched him develop over that season and three more. And Jeff Brom was there. And Jeff Brom, I think he redshirted a year, and then he sat for a year behind Browning Nagel, and then he got to play three more years. And it's not that way anymore. And that wasn't, I mean, that's not like way back when I was in college. This is like, 15 or that's 20 years ago when these guys did that stuff. And it's like now it's different because Tony Delk was out there from Kentucky. And like I was talking to him, I watched him play 4 years at Kentucky. And those guys, fans kind of feel like they got to know him and they became part of the community. Tony Delk lives in Lexington. Chris Redmond and Jeff Brom grew up in Louisville, but they live in Louisville. I mean, there's a lot of former players who come from out of town, though, whether it's IU, UK, or Louisville, who come and stay, learn, make friends, build relationships, get jobs because they're not going to be professional athletes for the rest of their life. And they became part of the university and part of the school. And that's what I worry about. These guys who are, I'm here this year, I'm there next year, I'm here this next year. It's like, that's not happening for them.
No, and there's no when the players come back. When you like to have players come back that are successful. Well, where are they going to come back to? One of three, one of four different teams. I mean, there's no, you just don't develop that bond, whether it's from the fans or just from the team or the community or anything. And that's an important bond.
Yeah, there's no question that it is. We can all think about players that we've watched at different schools that we've enjoyed watching develop. For me, I can think at Louisville, Felton Spencer was a guy who came in not expected to do much, makes himself a first-round NBA draft pick at Louisville. At Indiana, Victor Oladipo came in as a recruit ranked in not even in the top 100.
Like a 3-star.
Yeah. So freshman year, showed some promise sophomore year. Junior year, he blows up. He's the number 2 pick in the draft, becomes an all-time fan favorite. And there's guys like that at Kentucky. There's guys like that at Purdue. I mean, Zach Edey. Look at Zach Edey. Was he a 5-year guy? He's a 4-year guy. Mackenzie Holmes, a 5-year player with IU women's basketball. So that's, I hope they do come up with some kind of system. It's going to be hard. It's going to be complicated in terms of compensation. That they're trying to work out, but they only have themselves to blame because they waited for so long to react to the way the culture and society had changed and how much money was out there. And once the door was open, it was over at that point.
Absolutely. And last bit of a thing before we let you go, I've got Christian Watford joining us next. Indiana getting a TBT team for the first time together now. Purdue has had one. Butler has one. Louisville doesn't have one either, do they?
No, they had one last year. I would highly recommend it. I had a great time going out there. They played 3 nights in a row at Freedom Hall. They got beat in the 3rd game and didn't make it to the finals, but they had a team with Peyton Siva, Russ Smith, Kyle Curick, and a few other guys. And this year, Montrezl Harrell's going to play for the team, so they're going to have a good team.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and thank you for enjoying our content and videos. And make sure you hit that subscribe and notifications toggle so you don't miss out on anything, whether it's Indiana Hoosiers, the Boilers, the Colts, the Pacers, Indiana high school action, whatever's happening in sports. We're trying to bring it all to you, and make sure you don't miss out on a thing. Again, hit the subscribe button for us. Helps us out a ton. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much.